My goodness. The two greatest leaders in our generation met once again. Lovely people, check your screen and tell me what is happening. If today is your first time coming out.
On the grand stage of global power, one figure walks with quiet strength and fierce purpose. As Captain Ibrahim Traore stands shoulder to shoulder with world leaders, he carries more than the pride of a nation. He carries the heartbeat of a continent. This is not a symbol of allegiance. It is a declaration of presence. Africa is no longer knocking at the door. Africa is stepping through it. Bold, sovereign, unstoppable. To every young African watching, this is your call. Your face belongs in the halls of power. Your voice belongs in the decisions that shape tomorrow. From the resilient soil of Burkina Faso to the global arena in Moscow, the message is clear. This is the era of African resurgence. This is how we make Africa great. In May 2025, a moment of symbolic and strategic significance took place. While much of the world looked to the east for signs of shifting alliances, a VIP Russian aircraft, the Il-96-300, took off, not for Beijing or Berlin, but for Ouagadougou, the capital of Burkina Faso. Its mission, to pick up Captain Ibrahim Traore, the young and defiant leader of Burkina Faso, and bring him to Moscow as a special guest of President Vladimir Putin. This moment, seemingly small in the chaos of global headlines, carried immense weight for Africa. It represented the repositioning of a continent that has long been a passive player in global politics, now stepping into a role of agency, strategy, and strength. Captain Traore, representing not just Burkina Faso, but the broader AES bloc, the Alliance of Sahel States, is being recognized not for compliance, but for courage. His presence at Victory Day isn't a show of submission. It's a declaration. Africa is no longer on the sidelines. The AES, consisting of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, was formed as a response to shared challenges: terrorism, economic instability, and Western interference. What began as military-led transitions evolved into a broader regional vision for sovereignty, security, and self-determination. Each of these nations has faced immense pressure from international institutions and foreign governments, particularly France and the EU. In response, the AES has rejected foreign military presence and aid conditionalities, instead turning inward and eastward for strength. Together, these states envision a new security and economic alliance that works for Africans, by Africans. Traore's trip to Moscow is not just symbolic, it's strategic. It shows that the AES bloc is seeking allies who respect their sovereignty and who see Africa as a partner, not a project. Russia's engagement with Africa has grown significantly in the last decade, particularly with nations seeking alternatives to Western hegemony. From arms deals and infrastructure to energy and diplomacy, Moscow has presented itself as a power willing to engage Africa without colonial baggage. While Western media often paints these partnerships as manipulative, many African leaders and thinkers see it differently. Russia offers leverage, a chance to play multiple powers off each other for Africa's benefit. For Traore and the AES, Russia offers support in defense, infrastructure, and political backing at the international level. More importantly, it reflects a pivot away from unilateral dependence toward a multipolar foreign policy that empowers African voices. Victory Day in Russia commemorates the Soviet victory over Nazi Germany, but in recent years, it has become a geopolitical stage. World leaders who attend signal not only respect, but alignment. This year, the presence of President Xi Jinping of China, President Lula of Brazil, and leaders from Belarus, Serbia, and Slovakia shows that Moscow is still building coalitions, despite Western sanctions. For Traore, attending Victory Day is not just about honoring Russia's history. It's about showing the world that Africa chooses its own friends, that Africa can honor its heroes while building new partnerships, on its own terms. Predictably, Western media has responded with caution, concern, and criticism. Some have accused Traore of aligning with dictatorships or turning away from democracy, but these critiques often ignore the lived realities of Sahelian nations and the hypocrisy of Western double standards. The truth is more complex. Many African nations are tired of being lectured by those who've historically exploited them. They seek partners who offer respect, not rhetoric. Traore's Moscow visit may unsettle the old guard, but for many Africans, it signals progress. It says, we're not waiting for permission anymore. Traore is not alone. Leaders like Assimi Goïta in Mali and Abdourahmane Tiani in Niger are part of a wave of young, assertive, and self-reliant African presidents. Though controversial in international circles, they enjoy massive domestic support. What unites them is not ideology, but purpose: to secure their countries, control their resources, and pursue development without foreign interference. This is the essence of Pan-Africanism in the 21st century. Not just political unity, but collective strength built through shared values, mutual support, and visionary leadership.
It's time to farewell, because I have some very, very beautiful news for you people. You know, a long friend of Africa, Russia. You see, we've been colonized by those superpowers, Europe, America, you know. But there's a single superpower that never touched Africans, even though they had all the capabilities. They never colonized the black people. And these are the Russians. Back then, Russia was called Union of the Soviet Socialist Republic. Yes. Up to date, we have Russia supporting African countries, particularly those African countries that have cut ties with the Western world and the Western influences together with their governments. A good example of such countries that have cut ties with the Western world in terms of military accomplishment, in terms of military collaboration, are countries such as the famous Burkina Faso. We have Niger, and then we have Mali. We are still counting because we have countries like Chad, countries like Senegal, countries like DRC, countries like Ghana are making steps towards achieving self-independence, because independence really ain't there, you know. We still have neo-colonialism happening. But Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso, these three countries have shown it, and they have proved to us that it is possible to break free from the chains of neo-colonialism. Yes. And Russia has been a key role player in supporting Africans. Russia supported Africans during the colonization period. Russia particularly supported the country of South Africa during the times of the apartheid until they got their independence in 1994, right? And so we've had Ibrahim Traore, who has gone all the way to Russia to meet the President Putin. And I'm telling you guys, this is historical. We had Ibrahim Traore go there during the summit of African countries or African presidents. But now it is an exclusive visit by Ibrahim Traore to the president himself of Russia. Who? Vladimir Putin. I want us to watch this. Get much. Let's learn. Let's appreciate how much Russia is supporting us Africans. And also let's not forget to appreciate our very own Ibrahim Traore in this powerful journey that he made. And I believe he made this journey to come and help more the people of Burkina Faso. Let's dive in. Let's watch it.
Of course, there are risks. Attending such high-profile events amid security threats, including drone attacks on Moscow, is dangerous. Aligning too closely with any superpower carries its own burdens. And building African unity across diverse political systems, cultures, and economies is no easy feat. But African leaders like Traore seem willing to take these risks, not for personal gain, but to reshape their country's futures. And history shows, great change always comes with resistance. For Africa to truly rise, it must be willing to walk difficult roads, and it must walk them together. As Traore walks alongside world leaders on Victory Day, his presence sends a powerful message. Africa is here, not as a follower, but as a force. It is a signal to the youth of Africa that their future can be shaped by those who look like them, speak their languages, and share their hopes. It is a signal to the world that Africa is not a passive continent. It is the world's next center of gravity. From Burkina Faso to Moscow, from past struggles to future triumphs, this is the story of African resurgence. This is how we make Africa great. In Moscow, Captain Traore will hold one-on-one talks with President Vladimir Putin, a meeting confirmed by Kremlin advisor Yuri Uchakov. But more than just a photo op, this face-to-face with Putin, and the presence of Xi Jinping of China and Lula da Silva of Brazil, signals a tectonic shift. This is the BRICS world. And Africa is not just knocking on the door, it's walking through it. The Western narrative has long painted African military leaders as rogue, unstable, or illegitimate. But as Captain Traore stands beside Xi, Putin, and Lula, the message to the global north is unmistakable. The old model is crumbling. For decades, the West has relied on puppet regimes and extractive relationships. But those days are numbered. Africa's new leaders, sovereign, self-determined, are reshaping the rules. There remains, however, a class of African presidents who still bow to foreign masters, exchanging sovereignty for stability and natural wealth for foreign approval. These leaders are not just out of touch, they are out of time. As nations like Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger pivot eastward, a continental realignment is underway. The people demand dignity, not dependency. This is not just about one leader or one nation, it is about a continent stepping into the multipolar future. A future where Africa is not a battleground for superpowers, but a superpower in its own right. The presence of Captain Traore in Moscow is symbolic. It says, "We will partner, but on our terms. We will trade, but we will not be traded." To the youth of Africa watching this moment, know this: the world is watching you back. Your leaders are beginning to look like you, speak like you, dream like you. This is not the end of Africa's story. It is the beginning of a new chapter, written in our own handwriting, on our own terms. Captain Ibrahim Traore's meeting with Putin is more than diplomacy. It is history. It is resistance. It is vision. As the sun rises on May 9th, it rises not only over Moscow, but over a new African century. The question is no longer if Africa will lead. The question is how soon. Africa is changing. A quiet storm is turning into a bold revolution, not with weapons, but with ideas, identity, and leadership. From Burkina Faso to Moscow, a new generation is rising, not asking for permission, but claiming its rightful place on the world stage. Since taking power, Captain Traore has captured the imagination of millions across Africa. Young, disciplined, and principled, he speaks not in the language of submission, but in the voice of a continent that's tired of exploitation. He has challenged Western influence, rejected foreign military bases, and emphasized self-reliance, economically, militarily, and culturally. And by aligning with global powers like Russia, Traore is rebalancing the scales, refusing to be a pawn in someone else's game. His actions speak louder than his words. Africa must define its own path, free from fear and full of pride. To understand Traore's mission, we must look back to Thomas Sankara, the iconic revolutionary leader of Burkina Faso in the 1980s. Sankara fought for dignity, justice, and self-determination, and he paid the ultimate price. Today, Traore evokes that same spirit. Many call him Sankara reborn, not because he imitates, but because he continues a legacy interrupted. He understands that Burkina Faso's fight is not just national, it's continental. It's about showing all Africans that true independence is possible. Across Africa, young people are no longer waiting. They are organizing, resisting, building. In Burkina Faso, youth movements have backed Traore with unmatched energy. But it's not just about one man. It's about a vision. A vision of an Africa that owns its land, its labor, its destiny. An Africa that educates its people, uplifts its women, honors its culture, and builds its own future. These youth are the spark that will ignite a continent-wide transformation. They are not asking for handouts. They are demanding respect. Russia's relationship with Africa is complex, but today, it is being rewritten. Countries like Burkina Faso are forming new partnerships based on mutual respect and shared history. Russia supported African liberation in the Cold War era, and now, once again, it opens its arms. But this is not about trading one empire for another. Traore and others are not looking for masters. They are building alliances that serve African interests. Africa is learning to negotiate from a position of strength, not desperation. And that, alone, is revolutionary. Often overlooked, Burkina Faso is now leading by example. Despite poverty, threats, and foreign pressure, it stands firm. It has expelled foreign military bases, launched its own defense efforts, and inspired a wave of Pan-African unity. What Traore represents is not perfection, but courage. And that courage has made Burkina Faso the spiritual capital of Africa's awakening.
I believe that from this interaction, I believe that from this collaboration that Ibrahim Traore has made with the government of Russia, Africa is going to see support, Africa is going to see development, Africa is going to see steps towards achievement, towards infrastructural development, because Russia itself is a developed country, and these guys have abundance, right? They have abundance. They don't want to exploit us, they want to help us grow, right? And I believe that is what is happening. The president Putin, Vladimir, might seem to be an enemy of the West, but he is a friend to us Africans. He's an enemy of the West because he does not comply to the deceptive, the hypocritical ways of the West. And I believe that it was worthwhile for Ibrahim Traore to make this journey to come and raise the flag of Africa in Russia. Yes. Share more of your thoughts about this visitation. I want to hear from you. We want to hear from one another, actually. Do that on the comment section right away.